I'm Lizzie Carlisle. I'm Head of Environmental Practices in the National Trust, and I work around the country advising properties on energy, water, waste and issues like that. So we're in a National Trust village, Buscott, and this is number 8. It's very typical of one of our estate cottages, which we've recently refurbished. It's an 18th century cottage, solid wall, stone wall mainly, although it has got various additions at the end which are different construction. This cottage in Buscott village is very typical of one of our estate cottages where we've got a couple of thousand of similar type residential properties, and we really want to make sure that the future occupants of this house are going to be warm and can heat it in an economical way. So we applied the bronze standard to the cottage, which involved doing the insulation, the draft proofing and the secondary glazing to try and make sure that it's comfortable while still affordable to heat. The National Trust is very interested in making sure its properties are fit for the future. So we're very concerned about the amount of energy and water that our properties consume, and we're working hard to try and do something about that. We've introduced our energy policy, Grow Your Own, which is really about two things. First of all, trying to reduce the amount of energy all our properties use, and also trying to generate our own energy, so using renewable energy to meet some of our demands, so we're less reliant on fossil fuels. So we're in the living room at the Buscott cottage, and in this room you'll see some of the measures we put in to meet the bronze standard. We've put in the aluminium framed secondary double glazing, which is a fantastic measure to block out some of the horrible drafts that were coming in from the original windows. And we've also put in place a wood-burning stove, which will meet some of the heating demand of the cottage. Finally, we've addressed the lighting in the room by replacing what were horrible strip lights with energy-efficient LED lights, which are doing a great job. So alongside our work to mitigate against climate change, to reduce our energy use, we're also trying to adapt to it. And this cottage is a great example because it sits in the floodplain of the River Thames. And indeed, in 2007, Buscott village was badly hit by floods. And I was here actually in person sandbagging the cottages. So we've taken measures to try and make sure that the cottages can get wet and dry out again. And one of the examples of those kind of measures is the sockets on the walls, where we've raised the whole electrical circuit above the level of the flood. Many of our estates in the National Trust historically supported themselves in terms of resources, and this is a principle we're really keen to maintain, and now it's more important than ever in terms of sustainability. So one example here at Buscott is where the estate is providing logs for the wood burner to heat the cottage. So the cottage was originally heated by a oil-fired boiler, which in the Trust we're very keen to get rid of our oil heating systems, particularly because of the pollution risk that the oil stores cause. So we've replaced it with a modern LPG boiler. And this in itself is quite a temporary measure because we're hoping to put in a district heating system based on a renewable fuel in the medium term. So this is work in progress in the cottage. As you can see, some of the pipes aren't insulated, and we're making very sure that we take all opportunities to insulate our pipes. It's an important measure. So one of the important steps to take in a house like this is to make sure that the loft insulation is up to really high standard, and we've put in this loft a hemp and cotton mix. We're very keen on using renewable materials in the building. Obviously we've done the secondary glazing, and then that causes an additional tension for us, which is around managing the moisture in the building. So in this bathroom we fitted a heat recovery ventilation system to try and make sure we're taking the moisture out but keeping the heat in. So as well as saving energy in our cottages, we're also very keen to save water. So wherever we can we fit low flow fittings. So here we've got a low flow shower and a low volume bath, which doesn't take up nearly as much water as a standard conventional bath. So one of the challenges is actually deciding what the best measures to implement are in a cottage like this. And this one with its solid walls posed a particular problem. Should we insulate the walls internally or not? And I think in the end we decided that we could do enough with other measures, but it is in a conservation area. And we do find that that can constrain what we can and can't do, but working closely with the conservation officers, we can achieve what we need to make sure these buildings are fit for the future. And I suppose the other constraint is always cost and where we find the money to do these refurbishments, because they can be expensive. But we have to look to the long term and make sure that buildings like this have a future and they can provide the trust with an income from being let to tenants. So the property here at Busker is just one of the village properties that the National Trust owns, and we're in the middle of a programme to make sure that all the cottages in the village under National Trust ownership meet bronze standards. That sounds easy, but in fact it's pretty difficult to do in practice when you look at the range of building stocks that we've got, everything from small estate cottages up to our mansions. But we are ambitious, and we do want to reduce that energy demand 20% by 2020. So we've got to take those steps to make sure that we're insulating and draft-proofing them properly to reduce the amount of heat needed in the buildings. And we also have a large renewables programme, which is everything from hydropower through to biomass heating for our castles and mansions. But we've also got this focus on getting off fossil fuels, and in particular off oil. And in this village, which is by the River Thames, it's doubly important to get rid of oil storage, which we see as a real pollution risk.